Hello, Salish Sea Ecosystem Conference. My name is Katie Soul, and I will be presenting a status update of the Pinto abalone restoration in the southern Salish Sea. Let's start with some facts about the Pinto abalone. Of the 7 species found on the west coast, they have the widest range, being found from Alaska down to Baja. They're the only species found in Washington State, and they're found in the San Juan Islands and the Strait. They have a shell length that grows to over 6 inches, and like all other abalone, they are broadcast spawners, meaning males and females must be close together in the water in order for their eggs and sperm to meet in the water column. They've also had a historic importance to Native American and Salish peoples' cultures, who utilize their shell as currency and the meat as well as many other things. Though Salish peoples had been utilizing Pinto abalone since time immemorial, State Department of Fisheries opened a sport fishery in Washington in 1959. Unlike other areas, there was no commercial abalone fishing in Washington. The original limit was a 3-inch shell length, and you could take 5 abalone per day. By the 1980s, it was estimated that 40,000 abalone were legally harvested from Washington each year, and that's not including the immeasurable hit that poaching added. WDFW was able to conduct the first Pinto abalone dive surveys in 1979, which is data that we still use to this day. However, by 1994, only 35 years after opening, Pinto abalone populations had declined so much that Washington closed the fishery. Between 1992 and 2017, abalone abundance at 10 fixed index sites in the San Juan Islands had declined by 97%, and in 2019, Pinto abalone were added to the Washington State Endangered Species List. As part of the endangered species listing process, WDFW produced a Pinto abalone recovery plan, which was released last month. In the plan, we lay out downlisting criteria that we are looking for in order to downlist the abalone from endangered to threatened, and threatened to sensitive, and so on. The key strategy to recover Pinto abalone in Washington State is to outplant hatchery-bred abalone. To do this, WDFW works with Puget Sound Restoration Fund and other collaborators to produce, raise, and outplant captive-bred abalone. Divers collect singleton abalone from the wild. We leave aggregations alone so that they can continue contributing to their population. We then spawn those singletons in the hatchery and raise their offspring to 1 to 2 years old. Then we outplant those offspring to an assortment of sites that we have around the San Juan Islands and eventually the Strait of Juan de Fuca. As of 2021, WDFW and PSRF had established 21 Pinto abalone outplant sites around the San Juan Islands. Just this past month, in 2022, we have added 6 new sites, which included expansion towards the Strait with 2 sites. In 2021, 10,000 juvenile abalone were outplanted to 10 sites around the islands. And just this past month, and actually as this conference is happening, 8,000 juvenile abalone are being outplanted to 8 sites, including restocking 2 old successful sites. Since 2009, WDFW, PSRF, and collaborators have outplanted 48,000 hatchery-raised Pinto abalone to Washington State. With many sites comes varying degrees of success. This graph shows the number of abalone present at each site on the site's most recent survey. Most have been surveyed in 2021 or 2022. The reason we outplant such high numbers of abalone to one site is because it's very normal for retention rates of abalone to be at or far below 10%. We consider an outplant with 10% survival a huge success because 10% of 1,000 abalone means 100 abalone are living within the site, making it a healthy aggregation that is hopefully reproducing successfully on their own. However, some sites simply don't work out and have low abalone retention rates. We are actively trying to understand why this occurs, as all sites look very similar to the human eye. But when we establish that a site is not good, for efficiency purposes, it is taken off our outplant list and no longer given abalone. Each site is given a code name, and locations of the sites are kept secret in order to protect abalone from poachers. To help tell the story of outplant sites, I'll highlight one site, and it's our current best site, nicknamed Omaha. Omaha was established in 2009 as one of 4 original outplant sites in Washington, and it's now old enough to have had 6 pulse outplants, meaning we have outplanted to the site 6 different times over the years. In 2021, WDFW and PSRF divers observed 181 outplanted abalone still thriving on Omaha. This table shows each cohort's first-year survival versus their presence on the site in 2021. Prior to 2019, we outplanted only 2-year-old abalone. As you can see, there are still abalone from the earliest outplants present on the site. For the past 3 years, beginning in 2019, we have outplanted 1-year-old abalone in addition to the 2-year-olds. In 2020, both 1- and 2-year-olds were outplanted to Omaha. Their survival 1 year post-outplant is promising. Here is a pie graph showing the breakdown of cohorts present on Omaha, with the exception of the very first cohort in 2009 and the small 2-year-old cohort in 2020. Each cohort is fairly evenly represented on the site. In 2020 alone, 31 unique families were represented in the cohort. Outplanting many families to each site allows for the offspring of these abalone to be genetically diverse and capable of surviving changing ocean conditions. As of 2021, 8.2% of all abalone outplanted remain on the site, which currently makes Omaha the strongest hatchery-based Pinto abalone aggregation in Washington. But what's important is that these hatchery abalone are growing and thriving after being released in the wild. On this graph, the lower dark green bar shows the percentage of abalone that have reached reproductive sizes as of the last surveys in 2021 and 2022. The light green bar on top is the percent of abalone still smaller than 50 millimeters and likely not yet reproductive. You'll see that the older sites on the left, of course, have more abalone that have grown to adult size. As you move to the right, you'll see abalone on the newer sites are still majority juvenile. Here's the same graph, bars representing abundance instead of percentages. Coming back to Omaha, you'll see that of those 181 abalone on the site, about 140 have reached adult size, while about 40 abalone are still at juvenile size. Abalone, even those from the same parents, grow at extremely inconsistent and unpredictable rates, and we're continuing to research what makes abalone grow faster at certain sites, even when outplanted in the same year. The Pinto Abalone Recovery Program in Washington has accomplished significant progress in the last 19 years, and we continue to push the known limits of endangered species restoration. Moving forward, we will maintain our established sites in the San Juan Islands while continuing to explore outplanting and abalone research in the Strait. We are also always conducting research to understand why certain sites work while others do not, to help us maximize our site picking potential. Additionally, of course, this cannot be done without many minds working together. Our partnerships are foundational to abalone restoration in Washington, and we continue strengthening our relationships with programs such as the Seattle Aquarium, Port Townsend Marine Science Center, and the Lummi, Makah, and Samish tribes. We are also working with UW PhD candidate Eileen Bates, who is comparing oceanographic conditions and differences at our sites to help us understand what makes a great abalone site a great site. We hold an open invitation to all interested programs and people, and we will continue our mission to restore Pinto abalone to self-sustaining populations in the southern Salish Sea. Thank you for watching this presentation and being interested in abalone restoration. Thanks to everybody in the program and everybody at the conference. Please feel free to send comments or questions to the emails on this slide. Thank you.